Everything starts from awareness.
Good leadership is simply catalyst.
Focus on the reason and you'll find inspiration in anything.
This impact continues to grow.
Conversation about intentionality.
If you change nothing, nothing will change.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Project Spiral. I'm Tim.
And I'm Abigail.
And it is a pleasure to meet you on this pleasant day. I was about to say dearest sister, but I wanted to find something more creative than dearest. Pleasant sister. Sister.
How about
strange sister?
What about magnanimous?
No. Wouldn't you prefer magnificent?
Yes,
magnanimous.
I would prefer magnificent.
Well, now that you now that you say magnanimous, that means that you're like you're a very magnanimous ruler, which means like you're very giving, you're very selfless. So I like magnanimous. We'll stick with magnanimous.
I'm just seriously though. So if you were known as a king in history, would you want to be known as Tim the Magnificent or Tim the Magnanimous? Like, what's a better way to go down in history?
Gosh.
Probably magnanimous, honestly.
Probably magnanimous if you're wanting to go like the good person route. Magnificent if you want to go for like the bling route.
Do you have anything if you could go beyond either of those choices? What would you want to be?
What other titles are there? There's like the pious, the impaler, the proud. I don't know.
The impaler got so far up on that list. There's also
yeah.
Here, let me pull up a list and then we can
of various kings' names.
I love
the magnificent
impaler.
The good old Vlad. They're known as epithets or
epithets?
regional epithets. So you could be there's the great, the conqueror, the magnificent, the victorious, the bold, the Lionheart, the strong, the hammer. That's a cool one if you're the hammer. The cruel, the terrible, the merciless, the butcher, and the mad. If you're wanting to be more wise, there's the wise, the just, the lawgiver, the peacemaker, the good, the pious, the learned. The bold, the brave, the gentle, the rash, the lazy, the glorious, the ambitious, or the bald, the fat, the fair, the red, the hunchback, or the lame. You could be the saint, the holy, the devout, the apostate, or the defender of faith. The unready, the beloved, the accursed, the restorer, the usurper. You could be the virgin queen, the she-wolf, the Iron Queen, the Warrior Queen, or the Widow Queen.
I do really like Warrior Queen and She-Wolf. That's pretty cool.
It's just like, I'm not going to mess with her.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with She-Wolf. Abigail the She-Wolf.
I'm just going to go with the bald.
No, you can't. You're not
That's
bald.
The title I'm going.
You're not.
No, I'm not. But I just like it.
Okay, Timothy the Bald, Abigail the
Timothy the Bald. So, well, that's a hopeful way to go forward.
Speaking of which.
Of which. Okay, you do the transition.
Okay, here, I got a good one.
Okay.
Speaking of hope, that brings us to our guest today, Annika the Wise.
Haha! That is absolutely how she will be remembered throughout history. Annika is wonderful. She is a life coach. She has done a number of interesting projects. She worked with our past guest, Aline McKay, on the project Conversation Sparkers. She helped lead a program called Ultra Camino, which involved a hike and coaching. And she's really cool. She helps people get unstuck, pretty much. In terms of paths for individuals to move forward in their careers, helping groups and organizations become more cohesive and more on board on their goals. And it's a different type of episode than we've done in the past, where it's much more looking at individual relationships, but it absolutely expands to the broader themes that we've been talking about. So this will be a very cool episode. What did you think, Abby?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's like really cool to speak to someone who has so much experience in helping people to feel hopeful, because it felt so intentional, and just through talking with her, I felt like a little boost, and I'm like, oh, she knows what she's doing. This is actually really cool. And so there's like some really practical advice that you'll hear in such an abstract topic. It can be easy to kind of stick in the theoretical, but we go to the practical in this, and I think that's really cool. And I'm so excited for you to hear this episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Project Spiral. We are so happy to have Annika. Great to have you.
Thank you for inviting me. Hi.
Hi. So we heard about you through our great past guest, Aileen McKay, and she recommended that we reach out to you. And you're doing such amazing things. So tell us where you're calling in from right now. How your day has been so far.
Yeah, right now I'm calling in from Berlin, and we had some sun at least. It's very uncommon at the moment. Normally people flee from Berlin in winter because it's always gray, and then you feel like there's no light at all. But today there was sun, and I had a really nice lunch break with a friend sitting in the sun.
I'm curious, do you also know Anna Zoe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
You do?
Okay.
Oh, so cool. I didn't know that. Okay, so we're having a whole Project Spiral club.
I mean, everyone in Germany knows each other, right? Like that was just my assumption. That's why I asked. No, but because Anna Zoe was the one who introduced us to Aileen, and so okay, I just was curious if everyone knew each other. Okay, all these amazing people, fantastic.
Trying to make Europe a better place together.
Yay! And may they all come on Project Spiral. So you do this amazing coaching work plus a plethora of other things that I'm probably going to not say perfectly well if I try. So talk to us a little bit just about like what your spiel is, and I'm also just curious of just like in the life of Annika and the work of Annika, what's your superpower that makes you able to work so well? So it's like, what's your secret power that you're like, this is why I'm badass at what I do?
Okay. In general, I'm doing coaching. I'm like listening to people a lot, but I also create intense personal experiences where groups can help each other out through sharing stories, sparing each other, mirroring each other, and also really working on projects together, finding solutions for their problems. And I really love this when groups come together and like share in their energy, because it really creates a very intense energy. And my superpowers, I have one thing that I have is I really have a clear understanding that I want to do something in the world that is important to me and my values. And I found out that for me, I'm seeing myself a little bit like the Little Prince. I don't know if you know the Little Prince.
The French book?
Yeah. The one who like enters the planets and like goes in connection with different people living on the planets. And I really love this character because he is so good at listening, and he really takes the time to understand the different philosophies and the different planets and the landscape and how people think and the mindset, and then ask very curious questions that are coming from a really non-judgmental place. And through that, there's this like very open-hearted conversations, and new insights will be born through that. And yeah, that's sometimes how I see myself. I love going in different organizations, different teams. We love working with different individuals, and then I try to find my way around their planets and see how is their landscape and like how are they thinking, how are they seeing the world. And sometimes I help them shift something within them or like go to new terrains in them through the questions, but through being there also with like this very open heart.
That's really beautiful. Oh, go for it.
Oh, this is just a brief aside. It's just funny about the Little Prince because I know it's French, but I was in South Korea in the spring, and there's a neighborhood in Busan in the south that we were walking around and everything was Little Prince themed. Like there were all these
really?
like, Little Prince murals and like Little Prince everything. In all the stores, it was like Little Prince like memorabilia. And we were like, what? Like, is there some significance to the city? Like, what is this? And so we were in one of the shops and we asked the lady there, what's with the Little Prince? And she was like, oh, we just really like it.
Wow.
I was like, good. I mean, like I love a theme as much as anybody, so go for it. But just funny because I know it's French, but now whenever I think of Little Prince, I just think of Korea. So anyway,
Wow.
that's just what's going on in my head right now. Sorry, Timmy, you were asking a question. That was probably.
I was asking a question. No, but it's cool to know about frogs in Busan.
Frogs.
I've actually, yeah, the Little Prince, isn't he a frog?
No, he's a boy.
Am I confusing books? Okay, this is what. Okay, oh, maybe I'm.
Oh no! Oh no! This is so embarrassing for you.
What were you thinking about
Prince
now?
and the Frog? The Princess and the Frog. Is that what you were thinking of? Oh no.
That's the fairy tale, right?
Yeah. Okay, no. I was confusing it. I knew though it was French. I was confusing I never read The Little Prince, but I guess I just put Prince and associate it with frog. Anyways, in my mind, I was just picturing like, wow, it's a whole town just dedicated to frogs. Frog princes everywhere.
Boy. He's a boy.
Okay, he's a boy prince, as princes normally are.
Anyway,
great. Well, I swear I'm literate. In other ways, but I am wondering. You were saying that you really enjoyed listening.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask you about that because I have to also listen a lot for my job, and I don't always like it. I feel like I'm good at making people feel heard and good at making people understood. And sometimes I listen because I feel like I have to for a conversation to happen. But like, it's sometimes hard, especially when you want a group to get to a place that they're not quite at, to just be like, I'm patiently listening, I'm doing this, but I'm just like, how this might seem a very hard question or broad question, but just like, how do you enjoy listening, or why do you in your work? Because it's something I'm trying to ask for myself.
That's a really interesting question, because listening is a skill. Like, it normally is happening easy to us. I mean, sounds come into the ear and then we hear things, which is nice. But I think we are normally also in our head. What you just said is like, you already have some agenda in your head where you want your group to be, or what you would like to talk about. And that's what I, in my coaching, try to not do. I try to be where the person is. It's as if you go hiking with someone and you try to be at the same pace where they are, and then see where they actually want to go towards. And sometimes I have an idea in my mind and I think this could be the next questions, but maybe it doesn't even work, because then they start talking about something else, or an emotion comes up that is more valuable, and then I'm curious about that. So I try to stay in this wonder, this moment that kids have, this like, wow, what is happening here, and what is happening here, and what is happening here, and trying to really be in the present, I think, to catch the in-between things that people say. Often there are a tonality, or there's like an emotion coming up, or they do something with their bodies where you're like, oh, why is this person like doing this and trying to hide? Like, why is this happening? And then, yeah, I try to stay with what happens, to be curious about that.
It's really cool. And I really like that analogy of like working with kids and being a child, because I've been working for the first time in a while teaching improv with primary school aged kids, which I normally don't work with folks that young, but with kindergartners, yes, it's sometimes hard to classroom manage, but when it comes to imagination exercises, they don't even miss a beat. They like, we do this exercise where like I'm holding up a cup. We do this with a water bottle and say, this isn't a cup, like it's a baby, or like, this isn't a cup, it's like a telescope that you look through, or this isn't a cup, it's like a ball, and they bounce it and spill water everywhere. But they don't miss a beat. And it's like been such a lesson for me in terms of how to actually be present. And yeah, then the older people get, like, yes, we have like a bigger frontal cortex and bigger brain, but like it takes so many more steps for us to imagine. But yeah, I very much resonate with that. So that's super cool. I mean, this is probably connected, but in your coaching work, and people come to you with problems. Like, I understand that they come to you stuck, so probably or wanting guidance in some place. So for you, so and actually, it's really interesting that you brought that up, because in our past conversation with Anna Zoe, we had a whole thing about like, what's the difference between being hopeful and hopeless, and her thing was just saying, if you're hopeless, you're not going to do anything. But just walk us through just how do you get people to be more hopeful? Like, suppose there's that client, or maybe there's a real example of this where that client is hopeless. How do you take that first step? How do you walk them through that?
So I think it starts with my mindset. So it's really important that I'm very free in my mind to think that this person has everything within them that wants to come out and wants to shift by itself. And I'm just kind of there birthing it like a midwife. I'm there like witnessing it kind of, but I'm not doing the job for them. Like it's their pathway that they're on. And then I try to just be there in the moment, like, how do you feel? And like, let the person speak out what is happening in their brains. And normally I try to also bring them into the body, because in our mind, we circle around and we tell stories and we have concepts, and we kind of get stuck to a point where we don't even know how else to describe what is the situation we're in. And then I try to be like, okay, but how do you feel in your body? Like, where can you notice that you're here, and like what is happening, and where do you feel something is stuck? How's your heart feeling? And normally that brings people in a different state, because they start resting a little bit in themselves, listening to themselves. And from that place, we try to find out what are the different voices, because often if it's an individual client who has like a hopeless topic of like, everything is a problem right now, everything is annoying, then they have issues with their emotions in them that are too loud. Like, for example, they are feeling fearful and they don't know how to handle the fear of taking a decision, or of being brave and voicing something that they are angry about, because they don't know if they are able or allowed to also say things that are annoying for other people. And then we can also work with the anger that is actually there and let it come out in a safe space with me. And the doubts, normally we also have a lot of doubts that like are judging us and being like, yeah, but you're not good at that, and why should you do that, because everyone else is doing this already, And then we are kind of in our mind, we are kind of circling, but also with the emotions, we are having an issue dealing with them. So they all need a space to be listened to, and then we can take a new decision, because it's like team members are there and we need to listen to them all, and then we can find a good solution. And I think one of my favorite clients I had once, she was really like not having hope anymore. She's a person who really cares about the world, who started a startup to be engaged in basic income. And she was really like living her values no matter where she went. And suddenly she saw that it doesn't matter what she does. It's not really shifting anything. And then like the whole big issues of the world made her feel small, even though she has this like really hands-on mentality and a lot of spirit, I would say. And then she was sitting there with me for some hours actually. And we were trying to find out like what in her still wants to do something and change something, and what are the voices against that. And at one point, it's always still touching me, she found out that she herself can be the hope that she doesn't see in the world. And that was super beautiful, because it always reminds me how important it is that there is someone who listens and gives that space. And one thing that I often do is to make people aware of what they have already achieved, and like to see the things that really were who they are. Because sometimes you do things that are something you're good at, but you don't really like it. But like, what are the things that make you who you are? And like, what's really your quality? And what is something that gives you sparks of joy? And what can't you stop talking about? Because, you know, all your friends would know that this is your thing or your topic, or they like this about you. And then it becomes you, and you just sometimes have to get aware of it, because everyone knows already, or you and your little self that is a little bit unsure yet also knows, but you know, you have to make it more aware that it's already there, what wants to evolve, and what just needs some followers to cheer you on.
I was just thinking, when you were talking about your client, your friend who who had, like what Tim was saying, had such a big heart, and who's trying so hard to make things better. And I don't know, this is something that we've talked about on this show so many times, the balance between awareness and like optimism, because it feels like the more you become aware and the more you interact with the world and see all the problems, the harder it is to feel hopeful. And how often hope and optimism can be viewed as someone, or like if someone is feeling that way, the world views them as being naive, because it's like, well, if you really understood what was happening, you couldn't possibly feel hopeful about it, because it's like, it just sucks. And then the challenge being you have to push through that. But I was also just thinking kind of the reverse of that. And I don't know, I just like, the thing that I've been thinking about so much recently is, you know, the whole MAGA, Make America Great thing in the US
movement. Yeah.
Which is, if you think about it, at least on paper, like a very, very hopeful statement. It's a, you know, it's super flawed. I'm not saying I agree with it, but like the sentiment is a hopeful sentiment that America was once great, that it will be great again. And then all the followers believing that this is like the way to go, and like the brainwashing that goes into that. But kind of, if like using hope as a tool and as like a weapon can be very effective if there's people, at least from my opinion, people who are not thinking very critically about things, who are not really interacting with the world and seeing the problems for what it is. When they hear that, they're like, oh, that feels good. Let's go that way. And because the hope feels good. Whereas for everyone else, kind of like the more liberal side of things, we don't feel any hope. And so any like messages of hope kind of like fall on like rocky ground. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. To me, I feel like your face is telling me that I'm not making sense.
No, you are making sense. You are making sense.
Okay.
So you're talking about like, is your question like, how do you weaponize? Like,
no.
What if hope gets weaponized?
No, wait. I did have a question. I just want to make sure I was like making sense so far, and it didn't.
Okay, you make sense.
Okay, I didn't.
I guess
I'm
not.
like, okay.
I guess everything you said is kind of making sense.
Okay, I just like want to make it clear that I'm not like go MAGA. Like I feel like I'm by saying that's a hopeful thing. I don't mean to be like, you know, condoning it, but that's okay.
Abby, you can get out your red cap right now. It's okay. Just you're out.
Just to be clear.
Just coding.
So I feel like the work before us, if we're talking about like good people trying to do good things, like this person that you were talking about, Tim, like the work that you're doing, I hope the work that I'm doing, you know, the work that this project is supposed to be doing, like work that, you know, is really in the weeds and trying to be realistic about what the world is, but still trying to generate hope in people, and in ourselves, that like, that's really hard. So I feel like acknowledging that is really important. But what you were just saying, Annika, that I love is the whole, like, let's acknowledge what we've already accomplished. And I feel like that is like, we don't emphasize that enough as being like very, very effective in reminding you what you can do. Because if you're sitting there being like, I can't do anything, it's impossible, you know, like I'm feeling indecisive, or I'm feeling like whatever I do, it doesn't make a difference. I've tried so hard, it doesn't make a difference. But even like a little note of being like, oh, okay, remember you did this one thing and it worked. It was small, but it worked. That can create so much more hope, at least enough hope maybe to try one more time, and then the time after and the time after. So I don't know, again, there's not really a question here. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. But I'm curious, like, if that is something that resonates with you. How about that? That's a question. What do you think?
Yeah, for me, I had this one moment where I also had all the doubts. Why should I help people? Why should I listen? Why am I better at doing that at other people? Like, why should I also do that? There are so many people out there already coaching and therapy and everything. And then I had this like workshop where we support different people through like learning to go through their fears and doubts and like really trusting themselves and empowering them. And there was this one lady who really couldn't figure it out for herself. And there were different trainers trying to help her. And I was already tired. I thought, okay, I'm not needed. It's fine. I can maybe go sleep or something. And then, and then they called me to help this person because no one else could figure out. And I was there really 5 to 10 minutes and listening, and then it moved. Something in her moved. And after that, I'm like, okay, wow. For her, it mattered that I was here. And that's, if one message that gets out to everyone listening, please believe that maybe you are the person that matters for someone else and no one else can reach that person. And I think that's why we all need to keep up the hope because maybe you matter for someone and you don't know yet for who it will be. And sometimes people also don't tell you that because you don't have this immediate reaction, but maybe you planted the right seed at the right moment with the right question or with your compassion or with daring something and just sharing it on social media, what you dared. And then someone else thinks, oh, I could do that and I like it. And this person is cool. So let's do the same. So that's what I sometimes think why it's really, really important to acknowledge what we are already good at enough and then go out with that and try to bring it to other people because then there will be this ripple effect. I'm very, very sure of that. And I experienced it already. So that's what I want to live and believe in.
That's awesome.
I feel like that actually helped me pull my thoughts together in a way that I was struggling to before. Where I feel like what you're describing is this concrete proof kind of in your own brain to turn back to. And it can be so small, but so significant. If you're in moments of doubt, being like, why me? Why should I do this? But then you remember, okay, at least in that one instance, it was essential that I was there. That person needed me. And I was like, that's why I do what I do. And it worked and I can do it again. And having that as an anchor is so important. And I know this is something we've talked about several times in the show, but most recently with Kekashan with a Green Hope Foundation, where we talked a lot about first steps, small first steps, and taking out bite-sized chunks of a problem that you can actually affect, that you can make change. For several reasons. One, because it does help somebody ideally, but also for you, probably more importantly for you, it convinces you that you can do it. And if we're going back to the whole MAGA situation, what is that based on? That's based on nothing at all. It's just words. It's so different from being I believe in myself. I have hope that I can make a difference. I have hope that this thing can change because this has happened, because I've seen this happen. Whereas just the very ephemeral, make America great again, that will crumble because it's not based on anything real. And when people kind of wake up to the fact that there is nothing in their hearts that give them hope in that situation, it's not going to go forward. But if you have that personally, then you can get better. That made sense.
Yeah, there we go. You got there.
Did it. Sweet.
Another thing I'm thinking about based off of what you two are saying is so Annika, first of all, I'm really happy that you're bringing this more individual group perspective to this conversation, because we've been talking about a lot of larger environmental, political conversations. But I think what you're saying absolutely applies, both in a micro and a macro perspective, because of just saying hey, look at the past of what you've done. Also just look at, if you're worried about issues that are happening in the world, look at the past of where people did address those issues. There are exceptions. There are so many times when people found hope in kind of a hopeless place, and drawing on those examples and saying just do take one congruent step, parallel step to what somebody might have done in the past, or what you've done. What you're saying applies on so many levels, and I wish people have that kind of bigger perspective. But you're also right that in our lives we often forget our own histories the quickest, in the ways that are least helpful for us. And saying no, we've had a tough past, but we've also had amazing successes. So I think it's a really, really apt point.
It's really so interesting. In a lot of places, I ask people, where were you inspiring for someone else? Mm-hmm. And so many people are I'm not inspiring. I don't know. Like, you know, and
That's so true.
and then they really can't say anything. And the word inspiration is too big for them. And then I'm like, okay, but it could be you were there in a situation that was a crisis for someone and you were just there, you know, like it could be so simple, but that's not simple because that is actually solidarity and that's community building and that's being present with someone in pain, you know, like that's a lot. That is inspirational, you know, so like, I think we don't give ourselves enough credit for what we always do. We try to be a good person, a good partner, a good role model for kids, a good maybe neighbor, you know, like, and those things matter because they move on. Like if you smile to someone, it's proven that that person will be a little bit more happy and maybe a little bit more happy with the next person they meet and even shift the mood. So yeah, that's why I think we sometimes underestimate the impact we can have just on a daily basis.
Tim, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was about to make a great point.
Sorry, make your point, and then I want to ask you a question. Make your point.
Okay, my fantastic point, the point that you all have been waiting for, is I totally forgot it now. Abby, what you were going to say? Too bad.
I'm so
it's
sorry.
It's gone. The great point has just floated away.
Maybe that was it. Like, that's what we were all waiting for.
No. Here's the great point. I got it again. The great point is that, like, it's so important to recognize those small points because, like, I feel like, maybe for millennials, Gen Z, like, people were promised, like, hey, you're going to change the world. Like, you're going to be the ones that are going to make this utopia on Earth, this heaven on Earth. And then, like, when we can't have that like huge change, we're just like, we can't do anything. We're screwed. But like that interaction with your neighbor that you're talking about, Annika, or that like those moments where you're there for somebody, you picked up someone's phone that they dropped, you gave someone a compliment, you did something like you have to keep track of those small moments or else you're never going to have any traction to get to anywhere close to that big impact. And I think, yeah, anyways, I just that like Pierce to perfectionistic thing I've been thinking about. Anyways, Abby, what were you saying?
Okay, well, now I have a comment and then I'll ask my question because I've got a comment based on what you were saying. Okay, wow. So the comment is that I think like I personally want to like resist the temptation to think of this as being too trite, I think. Because when I think the first thing I think when I hear, just do, start with yourself, do something small that like helps somebody else. My first thought is like, okay, like, sure, that's just what people say, but I think what we're talking about is really, really important and it really matters. And it's the whole, like, you got to believe in yourself. I don't care if it sounds trite. I don't care. Like, it's true. So, I mean, for anyone listening to this who's just like, all right, sure, like, stop, stop. Like, that's like ridiculous. Think about it for a moment and maybe try it and see how it makes you feel. I want
Little things matter, listener.
It does. Okay.
I don't know why we're being aggressive.
Fear you. We're aggressive. Okay. My question for you, Timoteo, was Annika's question. Maybe you can help me phrase it the way you phrased it, was like, when was there a point where you felt like you were an inspiration to others? Were there in a moment where somebody needed you?
That's a good question. And the word inspiring is also freaking me out. So I think, I don't know. There was just small moments where I had a friend that was staying with me over the weekend and we both do something called musical improv where you perform a musical on the spot. And he's carrying it out in little ways where he is in the middle of Minnesota, the middle of nowhere. No offense to Minnesotans listening to this, but like he's in the middle of nowhere in the state. And of just like trying something little wherever you can. And we were just talking about like interpersonal relationships and other aspects. But it was just something where like I was able to, I think, just ask him questions and
listen. Sounds
and
like
listen.
It.
Yeah. And listen. And it was just like a moment where, I don't know. It was, like we both and he did the same for me. And it was, we were just there for each other in a weird way. And I probably won't see him again for a little bit until he next comes to New York or I go to Minnesota. But it was just like a cool moment of just like being there for a friend and him being there for me too. Just a very little thing. How about for you, Abby?
I was really hoping you weren't going to ask me that.
Yeah, break it down. Break it down. Remember what Annika said, that inspiring. Not don't talk about inspiring. When just when you just showed up.
I showed up. Gosh, I was like, you really think I would have had something like queued up for this? This is a very difficult question. Okay, here we go. This is easy. So basically, my job, I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I do a lot of work with nonprofits. And often the content I make is like for fundraising purposes. And usually I kind of like, make these videos, give them back to my clients, and then hope that they actually produce some, something good, something good that comes out of it. It's an organization that I did some work for last year, and I just had a check in with them. And they mentioned the fact that the video that I made last year actually resulted in a lot of donations.
Wow,
it has to do with like theater and helping like girls in theater and stuff like that. And I mean, in many ways, it functioned exactly as it was supposed to, which was very validating for me because I can be like, yeah, it works. So yeah, proud of that.
Wow.
Yay!
Really
you never know.
cool.
You never know in the moment.
Yeah.
How about for you, Annika?
What where I was inspiring?
Yes. Other than right now, of course.
Yeah, I think actually today when I was on the phone with my friend having lunch together in the sun, that I was sharing my anger about something that is happening with, I don't know, money being cut in Germany right now a lot for things that matter, like for health or for therapy, or I don't know. It really is so annoying. And I was like in my anger and had like a very strong opinion. And without knowing it, it gave her the strength to also voice what she's annoyed about today. And in the end of the conversation, she thanked me for being so strong-willed, strong-minded sometimes, because it gave her a shift of perspective. And for me, it was just a ranting out.
That makes me think of the importance of both like acknowledging that for yourself, but also paying those compliments to friends when they do something that affects you positively, to share that back to them.
Yeah, it matters.
That actually really matters. And it's worth like reiterating. So that's a good reminder.
And it builds the confidence of showing more of yourself.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Awesome.
Can we do the questionnaire thing? I'm so curious about this one. I'm like so excited to do it.
That'd be nice.
Annika, can you give us like a quick intro to like what this exercise is and like how you use it?
So there was this really nice book. It's called The Emotional Life of Your Brain. And it's a professor who was doing research in neuroscience. How is actually our brain functioning? And how can we see how people are different? Because normally there are lots of personality tests on the market that are normally based on self-revelation, and people just cross in, I'm more like that or more like that. And then you have your big five because, like that's what you think about yourself. But it's not really tested with your brain in that moment. And he created scales that actually see where are we actually differing. And there's, for example, some people who have like a focused attention, like me. Even if I'm on a train, I can work easily, even if people around me are on the phone. Like I can completely shut everything out and just stay on my track, what I want to do. And I'm going in flow mode. I love that. But that also means if someone needs my attention in that moment, I don't realize it, So it's not always a good thing. And other people, like my mom, for example, she has this like very spread awareness. So she always sees there's a bird and there's someone who wants attention and there's the train coming in and we need to shift the attention there. And she has lots of the things in her brain at the same moment. So it's sometimes hard for her to stay on track in one conversation with one thing. And for me, it was really hard to learn that because I'm sometimes like, why are you not listening to me anymore? I'm sharing something personal here, But it's just her attention is different. And she is very good at seeing so many things at the same time and realizing how people feel at the same time while she's in a different space in the room, which is amazing. And for example, this is something you can actually see in the brain, how people have different attention. And also there's this the scale on outlook, so which definitely fits with your topic of hope, because they say they are people who have more like a positive outlook, who like see that if something bad happens, that it will not completely change the mood of the day, and who, you know, will find solutions and who like look positively into the future. And then there are people who are more critical, like they say they have more like a negative outlook, but negative not in a way of like you are negative. It's more like you are good at seeing the critical things and you like stuck into the problem. And so there's this questionnaire where we can, if you want, play around with and see
try
how you link that.
Sweet.
Timmy, who do you think has a more hopeful outlook, you or me?
I think you do.
Really?
I think you do.
Okay, I was going to say the total opposite. I was going to say you do.
No, I'm convinced you do.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if this is true. So like, how is this going to work?
Yeah.
So you're going to give us these prompts and we record our answers?
Yeah.
I feel the reason why is I feel like I feel like you get less stuck than I do on difficult issues. You are able to move forward more easily than I can. I think I can kind of get mired more in hopelessness.
I feel like the reason that I can get stuff done, because you're right, I don't feel stuck, but I think it's because I am able to ignore my feelings more easily. So I feel like
you can't. I've never known you to ignore your feelings.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know.
I feel like there's
you know better than I do.
I feel like there's like a swirling hopelessness that's like continually in my brain, and then the rest of me is kind of like on auto drive. That's like, oops. That's like, okay, let's keep going. Let's just keep going. It's like brrr, hopeless. Keep going. Hopeless. And then there's days where it all like comes crashing down, and so I don't know if that's hope.
So it catches up to you.
I feel like the getting stuff done and getting unstuck is like just hardwired, but it's not necessarily like a conscious choice.
I would give you the prompts. There are different questions, and you say if it's true for you or not.
So do we?
Okay.
It's good if you just write it down for every answer, so that you do first, second, third, fourth, fifth, because then we can like do a easy check the score.
Okay, so if it's true for us,
if it applies?
If it applies, we just like put a 1 or say yes.
Yeah, you can just say a yes, and maybe also write it down, because I will.
Okay.
And listeners, you're welcome to do this along with you. So you can pause this, get a piece of paper, and go along with it.
All right.
So are you ready?
Yeah.
To write down your great. So the first is, when I'm invited somewhere and know I'll meet new people, I look forward to it because I think they could become my friends, rather than seeing it as a burden, believing it's not worth getting to know them anyway.
Do we say, okay, so that's true for me. Is it true for you, Timmy?
Generally, it's true for me.
Okay.
Not always, but generally.
Next one, the second. When I evaluate colleagues, I tend to focus on the areas where they need to improve rather than their overall positive performance.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a very German thing. People would be more critical.
Yeah, really? I'm trying to think. I think it's false for me, generally.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you write your answers down, please.
Okay.
The third. I believe the next 10 years will be better for me than the past 10. Yeah. The fourth is, when faced with the possibility of moving to another city, I see it as a frightening step into the unknown.
True. Yeah. Well, I'd say false.
Okay. The fifth is, if something small but unexpectedly good happens to me in the morning, for example, a great conversation with someone I don't know, my good mood fades within minutes.
False.
True.
The sixth is, if I'm at a party and have a good time right from the start, the positive feeling tends to last the whole evening.
Very true.
False.
Wow. Okay.
Getting to know each other in a new way. The the 7th question is, for me, beautiful scenes like stunning sunsets quickly become tedious and I get bored easily.
That's false. Why are you
I'm
laughing?
trying to think.
What's funny?
I've had I don't know. I've had traumatic.
Oh, I know.
Basically, someone was a past ex had multiple sunsets with me asking me to tell her that I loved her, and then it never happened. It's kind of traumatic, but anyways, it's fine.
Literally, it's actually ruined sunsets for him. It's so sad. Like whenever we're at a sunset, Tim's like, oh no, it's so sad.
That's the trigger then. Your old experience comes up again. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Then we are at the 8th.
Yes.
When I wake up in the morning, I can think about a pleasant activity I've planned, and the thought of it puts me in a good mood that lasts all day.
That's true for me, actually.
False.
It's funny that you're always different. And it's a good match then. You can, cheer each other up.
Yeah.
The 9th is when I do something I enjoy, like going to a museum, the cinema, or concert, I really savor the first few minutes, but it doesn't last long.
It's false for me.
False, yeah, false for me too.
And the last one. Yeah, it's the same. On busy days, I feel like I could go from one event to the next without getting tired.
True.
False.
Wow.
Okay, now I tell you where you get a point for which questions, and you put a point behind the question. Okay.
Okay.
So behind the first, when I'm invited somewhere and now I meet new people, first you get 1 point if it applied to you, or you get 0 points if it didn't apply to you.
Okay.
Cool.
So for the second one, you get a point if it is not applicable, and 0 points if it was applying for you. For the third, you get a point if it applies to you, and 0 points if it didn't apply. For the fourth, you get a point if it wasn't applicable for you, and 0 points if it applied to you. For the fifth, you got 0 points if it applies to you, and 1 point if it didn't apply to you. For the sixth, you become a point if it applied to you, and 0 points if it didn't apply to you. Can you follow?
Yep.
Okay, great. For the seventh, you get 0 points if it applied to you, and 1 point if it didn't apply to you. For the eighth, you get 1 point if it applied to you, and 0 points if it didn't apply to you. And for the ninth, you get 0 point if it applies to you, and 1 point if it didn't apply to you. And the last, the 10th, you get 1 point if it applies to you, and 0 points if it didn't apply to you. And now you can tell me how many points you got.
Okay, I got 6.
I got 7.
Wow, you see, I told you. You're more hopeful.
And they say 7 and more is rather positive outlook on life. And if you have smaller than 3, you have a rather negative outlook on life. So it means, Tim, you're kind of in the middle.
Okay, great.
You can do both with your brain, which is also great.
on the sunset question, I was a little in between. I could have gone either way, so I'm on the edge there. But yeah, that's so interesting.
So that breakup, or sorry, that moment of tension with sunsets is the thing that makes me more hopeful than you.
Maybe.
Interesting. That's when I pulled ahead.
I hope you can work on the situation and give sunsets back their magic.
Yeah.
Can you
bring it back?
Can I just tell you, it is so annoying that he has this. Like, I understand that it's like his trauma or whatever, but we'll be like looking at the most beautiful thing, and I'll be like, "This is amazing," and Tim will be like, I can't look at it. This is just so sad.
I never say. I don't
you
say
get
that.
so sad. It's awful.
Oh, but I should think of past exceptions where I did enjoy sunsets. So.
Yes. Can you think of any?
But maybe the sadness needs some space.
Maybe. That's very apt coaching advice. Thank you. So what do we do with this information?
So normally it's really cool, like where you are on the different scales. Like this is just one test, there are the different ones that you can look at also with attention and resilience, which would be about how you live emotions, what Abby said before, would be resilience, like how do you move on from setbacks, and do they matter a lot and long, or do you just be like, oh yeah, this wasn't really nice and I failed, but then I don't care, I move on. So there are different things you could see, how you are more wired, and then it helps you to know what are your strengths. Like it's easier for you to bring positivity, enthusiasm, and like see the solutions maybe and ask questions that move forward. And then it could be helpful to know that sometimes you need people who are more critical than you and point you to the problems and, want to look at more what are the things that are an issue still to work on. And if you're a more critical person, it's really easy for me to find the issue and the problem, and I will always find something we could improve on. And then, okay, that could turn down the atmosphere if you only have positive people around you that want also encouragement or praise. And if you're only there with your critical thinking, it might, pull them down. So it's really important to know that about each other and talk about it. And what is proven from the neuroscience is you could shift. Like if you're a more person who's very critical and like sees only the issues and the future will be dark, then you could like work on also improving it a little bit, that you can be more like positive sometimes. And the opposite. I was a very naive person, how you called it earlier. And I sometimes would say I wasn't maybe empathic enough with things that were not working, or like really taking time for the critical things. If people were critical about things I said in a workshop, or if I made a mistake, I maybe didn't apologize enough because, I didn't see the impact enough of a person. So it's also sometimes not so good to be too on the positive outlook if you then discard the issues of people, So I had to learn to be a little bit more critical and to see like, this person really had an issue with me and didn't like what I said or how I did it, or I really need to improve myself there. And I need to acknowledge that it was not cool in that situation, and to apologize and to be with that also. And now I'm happy that I can be a little bit in both, because then I can be empathic with either and bring the different energy that is important for a group also. If I have very critical thinkers, then I bring in an exercise where they all have to share with each other what they like about each other or what they want to change in the future instead of what is the issue, And if I have people who are like, oh, we are so great and everything is amazing, I'm like, okay, but what are your issues then?
Let's dig stuff up.
Where's the feedback you should give each other, because you maybe don't dare in the daily life to say what are actually problems with each other.
It's cool that this is all happening in a conversation about hope, about awareness, and like at first, like thinking about some of these things, like I was starting to be like, oh, how can I be more hopeful that like this? I was starting to go down the path of like kind of beating myself up about this, and then I was just realizing like, no, it's a really cool opportunity. Like, how can I increase curiosity? How can I how can I look at things around me in a different way, like a sunset or a gathering or how to start the day better. And it's just like, and these opportunities of just being like self-aware, less from like, oh, how do we be more self-critical, of just saying like, how can we be more hopeful? And so I think that's a really cool first step that I'm taking away from this.
It's funny, Tim, what you just mentioned, that just kind of like clicked for me. We were talking earlier about how inspiration can feel like kind of a heavy, big, intimidating word, but I also feel like hope can feel that way. Because it's like such an abstract topic and can feel so hard, and it's so it can be difficult to be like, I'm going to be more hopeful today. Yeah. But like if you substitute it for something that requires hope but isn't hope, like what you just said, Tim, about curiosity, you have to be hopeful to be curious. Like I don't think there is curiosity. I don't think you can be curious without being hopeful, because to me, curiosity means like wanting to know more about something, like asking questions. Whereas if you weren't hopeful, you wouldn't give a fuck. You know, you'd be like, I don't care. That's where like the apathy comes in. But if you're like, oh, I'm gonna like today I'm gonna try and be more curious, that sounds a lot easier than trying to be more hopeful, at least to me.
Yeah.
But by like exploring what interests you and by asking questions, I think like the hope might sneak its way into your brain, especially if you find more and more reasons to ask questions. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Cool takeaways.
And it can be also maybe gratitude, like what are the things that are already okay-ish and they don't need to be perfect and amazing and always great, you know? It's just like, there are things I value and they are acceptable and okay. And I can be grateful for them. And what I also would still like to say that if people don't feel hopeful, it's also okay to be like sad sometimes. It's also okay to feel fear and to be doubtful and to have anger. And I think if we would like learn to not push those feelings so much away and be like, why I'm feeling like that and then maybe those feelings would just move through us. Like little kids still have this ability, you know, they cry for 2 minutes and then it's gone. And then they're happy again, or they are then scared and then they hide and then they are a little bit shy and then they suddenly start to have curiosity again, because it's just something they are naturally having, that they like live out what they feel and then it doesn't get stuck. And that's what I find with people that have this like hopelessness within them. There's just a lot of emotions that they don't like because they weigh them down, and they are not so acceptable in society, but they also might need some space, like with your sadness with the sunset. And then if you share that story maybe again with the sadness, maybe then it shifts because the sadness is allowed to be there.
Interesting.
A little bit. Because sometimes I don't like this positivity hype, you know, like you just need to be positive and everything is great, because I think that doesn't work. Like you can't push yourself to feel differently than what you feel, but you can listen to your emotions and like you can like calm down and give them a little bit of stage in you and like let them be there for a moment, and then they will move, because that's what emotions do.
Yeah, and recognize that it will move. No, I think that's a really great point. As we start to wrap up, so yeah, Annika, this has been awesome. If people want to follow along with what you're doing, what's the best way for them to be able to do so?
I have a newsletter that might help, and I'm sometimes posting things on LinkedIn. Yeah, you could also see me probably on my website or reach out and call. Yeah.
Thank you everyone so much for listening to this episode of Project Spiral. We would love to hear from you. We'd love for you to get involved. The best way to do that is to follow us on Instagram. We are at Project Spiral, so go check us out, follow along, send us a DM, or you can email us at projectspiral@gmail.com.
We are also on TikTok. We are also on LinkedIn. And we would love it if you can do nothing else at the end of this episode, please leave us a review. That is the best way for us to get the word out about this podcast. If you're in New York, please join us for our monthly Lyceum meetings, where we basically do teach-ins at each other's apartments and cultivate a practice of hope in many different fields and areas.
I am like fired up about my day now, honestly.
Yeah, me too. It's awesome.
So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time, for sharing your wisdom with us. I feel like we need to do an episode with you and Aileen and Zoe and just like all get together and share notes.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
A German plus one Scotswoman podcast. Yeah, that'd be great.
2 random Americans all
yes.
together. Beautiful. What a beautiful world.
What a beautiful world.
Yeah, but thank you so much. You're wonderful.
Thanks for giving me the space. And I definitely think it's inspirational that you just started your project and brought this topic of hope on stage, you know, like it's really inspirational for me, at least, to be so brave and voice things out and bring people together that share the same values and can, you know, bring their vision out there also.
This has been a production of Little Scorpion Studios.